Remanufactured. What's going on, guys? Teen Mechanic here, and today finally I've brought some actual content to the channel here. So, what I'm going to be doing here in this video is I'm going to show you how to diagnose and replace an alternator in your vehicle. Now, showing you right off the bat, this is an '08 Dodge Ram. It will vary depending on the vehicle. However, this will generally be the same process for most vehicles. So, first of all, with the diagnosis. Unfortunately, I won't be able to show you 100% in depth, but I can show you that my dad this morning went to go start the truck. Nothing happened. First of all, also because we have a bad battery, but second of all, because the alternator wasn't charging the battery. So, I turn the key, nothing happens. So, at that point, if your battery is dead, turn on the headlights. First of all, you don't hear the dinging. So, headlights are on. I'll go out and I'll check. And, okay, so they're not on. That's also because the battery's dead. So if they are on, great. So, if you have a vehicle with the headlights and they turn on, for example, what you then want to do is you want to have those headlights on and put something else on, say the radio or the whatever, roll windows down. And if the lights dim as the vehicle is running, also you would know that your alternator is bad. If you're driving, oh, there go the needles. If you're driving and you see the battery light comes on, you also know your alternator may be bad. God, I'm out of breath, sorry. Anyway, you see the mileage? I'm going to turn the lights on. Mileage disappears. Because it draws so much power that the mileage goes away. Now, of course, this is all should be tested with the vehicle running. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and put in the brand new battery that we got, and I will go ahead and prove that it is the alternator that is the problem. Okay, so with the new battery installed, as you can see here, here is the new one. Here's the old one, just for proof. All right, now I'm going to go attempt to fire this thing up just to show ya. There she goes with a new battery. Now you can see here, I'll turn on the lights, see how much that dims, and that's with these all the way up. So see how much it dims. So I'm gonna turn this on, this on, this on, this on. Everything just started dimming. And you can see we've got lights on the dash. It's in two-wheel drive. The ESP is on. I'm going to go ahead and roll this down. Lights are already dimming. So yeah, you can see that everything is dimming. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this all off before we literally destroy our new battery. Alright, so now, of course, what you want to do is disconnect that battery and go ahead and replace the alternator. Okay, so of course the first step is to wear PPE and also disconnect the battery. Negative terminal, here's a quick tip. If you're disconnecting your battery, always disconnect the negative terminal, and I'll tell you why. Because this is the ground. You can see the wire grounds to the chassis. So, obviously this is the ground. Now, just to say the least, if negative, excluding all the, whatever. Excluding the rest, it's a ground. Now, positive terminal is not a ground. It is the power. So, if you ground this, you're grounding your entire electrical system. And you could, therefore, cause a short in a bunch of different things. You could blow fuses. You could cause a whole bunch of bad problems. If you ground the ground, well, you're grounding the ground. Doesn't matter. So, with that tip out of the way, moving on to the alternator. I'll show you here. It's relatively simple to get to. So, in short, steps you need to do. Disconnect your serpentine belt, drive belt, fan belt, whatever you want to call it. In this case, I'll call it a fan belt because it does actually spin the fan. Then you want to disconnect the power to the alternator. Then you want to unbolt it. And by the looks of it, there should be three bolts. By the looks of it, there are 1, 2 that I see so far. But I feel like there should be 3. I don't know. I don't see it. But I'm going to go ahead and start by getting the belt off. So you look down. This here, this is your belt tensioner. So what you do is you stick the correct socket size on this. Some belt tensioners will have just a 1/2 inch socket that you will stick this into, a breaker bar. Just stick that into it and turn it. Of course, you can also get a fan belt removal tool, which is helpful in some times where it's really hard to stick something down in there. I think that should be it. So I would generally say that it would be a 15, and of course helicopters flying, I would generally say it would be a 15. So basically what you want to do, go ahead and test that, see if it's 15, and don't drop the socket. It is a 15. Yes, it's a 15. So go ahead and twist this tensioner whichever way it'll turn. It'll only turn one way until the tension on the belt goes away. Oh, also, quick tip, if you're replacing any of your accessories, also recommend to replace your belt, because preventative maintenance, and this one is actually pretty worn out, so that's going to need a new belt soon. So yeah, we'll go ahead and move on to getting that belt off. Okay, so I removed the fan belt. I actually made a mistake. See, right down here's your tensioner. Oh, also, before you take your belt off, memorize how it runs down through the pulleys, because you know, you can if you forget, that can result in some mental discomfort, to say the least. Anyway, I made a mistake. You don't actually put the socket on this bolt. You actually put a driver in this 3/8 inch hole, either one of these, and it just pulls the tensioner back. So that is what you do to get the belt off. I honestly would recommend not, sorry if there's any background noise, I'd actually recommend not removing the belt 100%, and yeah, and you should get enough clearance. Okay, moving on to disconnecting the power. You look down here and you have some connectors down that just quite obviously connect to the alternator. So you look down here and you should see right here is a back plate, and there should be 2 connectors, usually 2 or 3 connectors. It's pretty rare that you see one. There is an odd chance that you will, but you know. So you see here, you pull off this connector and you have one here and one here. Now this of course has a red tab that you have to pull, because of course it is dangerous power. So what you do basically is you pull this red tab back and you push this in, and you pull the connector off while you're pushing that in. And of course you take, what is that, probably a 12 or a 13. You take this bolt off and then it is completely disconnected. Okay, moving on. I just got this bolt off. This connector is now off. Oh, another tip, before you reconnect these in the future, make sure that you clean these connectors off. Make sure there's no corrosion. I just said, ooh, like a Canadian, so hard. Anyway, aside from that, I'm Canadian, so I get to say that. Anyway, also another thing that I just forgot is you can pull this breather tube off of the intake box just to get some room back there and get more access. Now, the last step to getting this alternator out would be disconnecting this one bolt here and the other one right here, and it should be that simple. I assume those are both 15s, I would want to say. So that's what I'm going to do now, is I'm going to get that one down there. You can't really see it. That one down right there, and that one down right, come on, anyway, right there, out. Okay, I'd assume those are 15s, so what I'm going to do now is get those. So, like I mentioned earlier, there are only 2 bolts that I can see on this alternator. Some cars will have 1, some cars will have 5. So, depending on, you know, your make and model, you want to look for several different bolts and several different sizes. So, I'm going to go ahead and start by removing the one that is connecting onto the front plate here, which is just over here, which isn't actually that hard to get to. Pretty simple. Of course, I would really highly recommend investing in a breaker bar, because if you have any really tight bolts, man, it can be a lifesaver. So, that bolt is mostly loose now. I think I can barely get it by hand. Maybe not. No, not quite. Let me get this belt out of the way. Okay, there you go. Now it's loose. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and grab this. Fairly simple. Make sure it doesn't fall. Put this aside. Now we're gonna go ahead and switch our sockets. They're 2 different sizes. And now I'm gonna go ahead and take off this last bolt right here. And maybe this one might be a little tougher. Oh, there we go. There we go. Okay. There we go. It's coming now. Now, I assume this bolt is going to be actually pretty long, so patience is definitely something that is required in the tools section. Okay. I feel like it's getting a lot looser. Alright, so I'll get back to you guys when this bolt's off. Okay, so this is why you never force, because I found another bolt right down there, the center of your screen. So, right there, you want to look out for that as well, because of course you don't want to break things. It also isn't a proper job on a vehicle until you gash your hand open. So, yeah, you should wear some PPE like I mentioned. Okay, so I just learned something new, like you always should. So, this 5.7 liter Hemi Dodge Ram has a different kind of setup than a different one would. So, I watched a video because I couldn't figure out, man, how do I get this off? I actually thought about this prior to it, but I actually, decided to do it once I saw the videos. So, I watched the videos like, man, I can't get this off. So, there are 2 bolts, one here, one here, but this connector, or not connector, plate, metal thing, was right here. So basically, all those holes were on all 4 of those places right there. And not this one, but these 2, and there's a bolt that went in that one. So, that you have to remove to get to this, and then you just take a deep socket 15 and put it on here, and then just start wrenching away. Now, I actually did, like I said, I thought about doing that, but I thought, I'm going to see if there's a different way. Yeah, so actually, don't use one of these wrenches. I thought about doing that, but that just doesn't make any sense. You have to actually remove the connector. So yeah, just something to be aware of if it's set up like that. Okay, so got the alternator out. Man, that was a bit of a bear. I mean, to be honest, to get out. I tried lots of things to get it out. I did tap it. I recommend just do not seriously use any force. I seriously just mean that. Nothing else. Anyway, it was actually very kind of difficult to get out at first, but I just went back into the garage. I know this looks intimidating to use on your engine, but seriously, just use it. Stick this in, and it comes out extremely easily. The leverage and the grip it gets is just, it's so worth it. So, what you're going to do at this point, once it's out and super loose, just kind of lift it up and out. Make sure it's not caught on anything, kind of like taking an engine out would be. And then just grab the alternator and pull it right out. Now, before you do, this is the original alternator, as you can see. What I'm going to do is put it down, and before we go ahead and try to install this one, we're going to go ahead and compare parts. Now, I did get a remanufactured alternator. Of course, that's not a bad thing. I'm going to go ahead and get this out of the box. Okay, so going ahead and looking at this here, we're going to go ahead and compare power terminals. So, if we look at the original one here, you can see you've got this stud right here. We're going to go ahead and look, make sure it's the same size. Yes, and it comes with a new nut. Okay, now we're going to look at the old one. Look at the other power connection. Same there. So, just want to make sure. Look at the mounting points. Old one, you see, you have one there and one there. New one, you see the same thing. You see this little triangle notch here. One there and one there. So, just go ahead and compare 100% that it's the same part before you try to put it on. So, now what we're going to do, installation, exactly opposite of installation. And, by the way, if you're taking this out and you're a bit of a smaller person or haven't done anything on cars before, make sure you're prepared. Alternators are, I mean, they're not heavy, but they might catch you by surprise. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and install this one now. Should be fairly simple. Okay, so now we have the new alternator and we've compared parts. It's fairly standard now just to go ahead and install it. If there's any washers or any sort of, whatchamacallit, like rubber grommets here, make sure you also replace those. So, what I'm going to go ahead and do now is not rest that on the AC line. But let me go ahead, grab all the bolts, make sure all of them fit through, make sure everything's all good. I've already done that, so that's not an issue. By the way, should mention, while I'm at it, this does not, if I wasn't recording this, this would take maybe half an hour at the most, and you're saving money at it as well, so this is awesome. Alright, going ahead, moving on to actual installation. I'm going to go ahead and grab the alternator, make sure to take note of which way it was installed. Go ahead and press it on. It might actually be quite difficult to do, so just keep that in mind. Make sure that you take note of how it was to get off. That's usually a good indicator on what it's going to be to get on. If not even harder, because I know getting things off is most of the time that's the easy part. Now, I wouldn't recommend tapping it with a hammer on the new one. If you're going to tap it with something, I'd recommend it be a rubber mallet if you're doing that. And even then, I still don't recommend it. Also, try not to bang them around too much like I just did. Okay, make sure it's on there. This is actually quite difficult, so make sure to stack up on patience before you attempt the job. Okay, so right here what I found helps is actually getting a piece of wood, something that will not crack this this cast aluminum here, and just kind of putting it on an edge either here or here and just kind of tapping it down on there, and that works really well. I actually ended up putting it on too much, so I'm actually just gonna grab this crowbar here, stick her in there, and just go ahead and make sure this goes on there properly. And oh, another thing I found out that helps is putting one of the bolts in prior to trying to get it on, because that will help locate it. Alright, go ahead and take the other bolt. See if I got this aligned properly, which I almost did. Let's see. Very close. Very, very close. Okay, so finally got this alternator in. It actually wasn't that big a deal. Just had some alignment issues with some of the bolts. So basically, what you want to do is I got my crowbar, and I put it here and here, and I just kind of moved the alternator, and I felt inside the bolt holes with this to feel where the whether it was catching or not, and the bolts went in all just fine. All three are back in. Also, remember to clean the mating surface that the alternator and all the bolts and the mounting points sit on, because a lot of alternators in a lot of cars they ground through the engine block, and that's just kind of how it works. So make sure that you clean that with a metal wire brush. Now, last thing you want to do here, just go ahead and not lose this nut in there, and just make sure that these are all clean. Also, I'd recommend cleaning these connectors. Then just kind of stick it on there. You got one is, just get it mostly on there. And then this one just clicks right in. Hold on. Oh, it's going on. It's going on. There you go. And push that back on. We're all done. Not yet, actually. What am I saying? We still actually have to put this connector on, which doesn't take time at all. Just go ahead and get this all aligned on here. Oh, backwards. Get this aligned on here. Just make sure all of the pegs are aligned. Get that on all the studs. Put all the bolts back on. Make sure to put your serpentine belt back on as well. Okay, so alternator's back in. Plugged on all the connectors and tightened down every single bolt. Everything is pretty much done. Of course, don't forget to put your serpentine belt back on and battery. Now we're gonna go ahead and fire this up, see if she runs. Let's see. See if these lights go off. Come on, come on. And probably won't actually, because I have to scan or do it with my OBT2 scanner, but everything seems to be running just fine. So that, my friends, is how you change an alternator that is bad. Thank you for watching. See you guys in the next video. If this video is helpful, give it a like. And subscribe and whatever. If you didn't like it, give it a dislike. I don't care. Share your thoughts in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching. See you guys in the next video.